Hello, I promised my grandson Theo that I would make some chaffles for him on a video because he likes them, and then I'm actually going to send him a couple chaffle makers. We start with these, the chaffle makers. They're made by Dash, and I use two of them because the recipe calls for two of them. And so I just plug them in before doing anything else, trying not to reset the circuit breaker while I'm doing it. And that lets them start to heat up. So they both have a blue light, meaning that they're on and they're heating. And now I have to get the ingredients out. Okay, there's lots of different ways to make chaffles, and chaffle just stands for cheese waffle. So it's got cheese as an ingredient and it does not have any wheat flour in it. And the way that I use is one that I'll be showing you now as I start putting the ingredients in. Okay, first I'll name them. We have one egg. It happens to be a large egg, but it's really, the recipe's pretty forgiving. This is a half a cup of shredded mozzarella. You could use a third cup if you wanted instead. And I've got almond flour. Even though my container says Rob's Red Mill, this is not that brand that's in there. I just was too lazy to switch out the label. And I've got xanthan gum, which is an optional ingredient, but I like to use it. So first I get the egg in there. Wonder if I can do this one-handed without eggshells. Look at that, almost as if I were in my 60s. Sorry, that jerky camera was in order to throw it away, the shell. And we've got mozzarella, and I'm going to put in approximately 2 sort of heaping, sort of not heaping, sort of tablespoon portions of almond flour. That's probably a little heavier than I normally do. And then I just take the end of a spoon to scoop up my xanthan gum. So if I were writing a recipe, I would probably say and put in a 1/4 teaspoon, but in actuality I probably use more than that. And this is going to be the secret ingredient that I do when I make them for my grandson. But first I just have to mix it all up. So let's see if the magic of video can mix this up without you watching me do it, and because I need 2 hands. Okay, it's pretty well mixed up, and you ask me, why do I need a little spoon? Well, that's to get the schmutz off the big spoon. Both now to mix it up well, and when I put them in the mini waffle makers, the mini Dash, or whatever they're called. So that's mixed up. Let's go over here. Both of the lights are off on that. You can't, I think. Yeah, these lights just happen to have a little reflection on them, so it makes it sort of hard to see whether they're on or off. I'm putting a pile in one. I'm using my belly to keep the container from rolling off the counter while I'm scraping in it. Probably not the best video quality, but you know what? If I were doing this for reals for my grandson, I would be using 2 hands. It looks like I've got a tiny bit more mix in the left one than the right one, so I'm just going to rob Peter to pay Paul. And use my finger because one hand. And this is the fun part. Hey Siri, set a timer for 4 minutes. Okay, when that timer goes off, then these will be done. The lights in here probably will go off before they're done, but I like to cook them a little extra longer. It gives it a nice little crunch on the outside, as if it were bread or toasted bread. And you know what? I forgot to put the chocolate chips in the mix, so they're not going in. But what I would have done, and I certainly would have done it if Theo was here, is after I mix up the the mixture, then I would put chocolate chips in it, and I'd probably put in a rounded tablespoon and mix that all in too. I've tried it where I just sprinkle them on top, but they really work out better if you mix them in the batter. So we'll be back when they're done. You might ask, what do I do for 4 minutes? Well, get a little plate out and get some butter out because they're really good with butter on. And also, I'm reaching up into the cabinet. I use this Lakanto monk fruit based maple flavored syrup instead of real maple syrup. We have real maple syrup in the refrigerator, but I don't take it because it's full of sugar, and I'm allergic to sugar. It makes me fat. Okay, they're still cooking, and we have less than 10 seconds to go. So I'm going to ignore my watch when it goes off because it doesn't make noise. It'll just be vibrating on my wrist. And these devices do not have an on-off switch. So to turn them off, we simply unplug them. And it's a pretty nice looking outcome. So sneakily reaching behind me, let's see what the other side looks like. Yeah, the other side's even a little crispier than the top because it was sitting there on the hot surface while I was portioning them out and spreading them out. So I'm going to stack these up, I'm going to put butter on them, I'm going to put syrup on them, and I'm going to eat them as if they were a waffle, and they will be delicious. Okay, here they are. They've got butter on, which hasn't completely melted yet, but it will melt. And what I actually do is even when I'm eating them for myself, I cut them all up into little pieces, and then in this extra syrup, which is pretty thin, the little pieces will actually absorb this syrup pretty well, and I'll make sure that every piece is a perfect bite, and it's very satisfying. And it's 1 egg, it's half cup or less of shredded mozzarella, and it is a couple tablespoons of almond flour, but you could use coconut flour, and it's a little bit of xanthan gum. So bon appetit.